Yeah, let's take some breath together. And I want to share a little bit about the channeling process for me. In my experience, every channel is different and unique in some way. Um, the essence of this channel with Yeshua is about energy. Um, there are words, there's a focus for the mind, there are messages, but Yeshua has always shared with me that the essence of the channel through me is around energy, and it's a shared energy experience. And he always outlines that it's a group process, and that we as a group have the opportunity and the potential to channel the energy of Christ, the energy of the essence of life, which is what we are. So that's really what this space is for. This space is an opportunity as a group to come together in a field, in a shared harmonic of energy. Um, and so, in that sense, we're all channeling in our own way. And the process is very simply one of breath and relaxation. There's nothing else to it. Okay. So it's not complicated, and all that is asked is really a willingness, a willingness to drop in to breath and relaxation. So that's the invitation. Um, Beyond that, I always like to say that it's my experience to be channeling Yeshua and the lineage of Christ, and to have a deep soul connection with these beings. Um, but I don't want you to take my word for it. I don't want you to release the power of your decision, choice, and discernment. So I always say, if it's not resonating for you, then that's your truth, in some way, and not to blindly give away, the power of one's own discernment, in this space. Just because I'm expressing it as one thing doesn't mean that that's your reality. And so I'm very open to that. I want that to be, in the field. We're all at choice, here. That's very important to me in this process. Um, yeah, I think that's everything that I want to say. Um, We'll drop into the breath for a little while. I'll say a prayer. I'll invite Yeshua in, um, and then he'll come through. And this process can take a few minutes. Some days it's quicker than others. I think possibly today, because of the way that we've started, it might take me a little bit longer just to get into that kind of space that where I'm unblended from my worldly parts enough to allow that space for him to come through. Um, and yeah, he'll speak. And then yeah, we'll go from there. So that's it. The invitation is simply to relax and breathe. There's nothing else, really nothing else to do in this space. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to say a prayer of preparation, really, of opening. Holy Mother, Father God, divine presence that is through all things now and always. Let me feel the immediacy of yourself and be open to knowing you in this moment. I ask for your help in separating myself from my worldly mind, and then in surrendering myself to the flow of grace and love that my brother Yeshua is. I give this mind, this body, this space here in the world to this channel for Yeshua, only Yeshua, and any friends that he might choose to share the channel with. And I invite Yeshua here to be here in this space. Amen. Now, now we begin. And yet again, my beloved friends, yet again, allow me, if you will, to extend my gratitude unto you, unto each and every facet of your mind, unto that self same soul that has been birthed directly from the Father's love that is you now. And allow my gratitude to be expressed for your willingness not only to abide here in this field of energy and to open yourself in the allowance of sharing in the one heart, even as there may be parts that are uncertain or carry fear about the vulnerability of being transparent in the heart, in a space with beings that you pretend not to know. And yet, can there ever be a being that you do not know when the heart is allowed to open in truth, clarity, and transparency? For when the heart is opened in truth and clarity and transparency, that which is seen can only be self and known as self. Self in many different forms, it is true to be said, but self nonetheless. For is there not, the glimmer of recognition in the depth of the eye that reflects the heart of the soul, and a knowingness that that one who abides here with you is indeed your dearest brother and your dearest sister. For how could it be another way? For all have been birthed from the same source. Each and every one of you has been birthed just as I have been birthed from the source of all creation. That source that binds us all in the everlasting truth of love and indeed communion. So please receive this energy of gratitude unto you for being willing to show up in a place of transparency, which is the same as to say, to show up in a place of vulnerability. For transparency in the world is vulnerability. It is the willingness to expose mind to intimacy. It is the willingness to allow the whole self to be seen. It is the willingness to open the doors and the shutters that have been closed in defense against that very seeing, for fear of the judgment that is imagined will come. And yet, hear me well, the judgment that is imagined will come comes not from intimacy. It comes only from the places in mind where judgment has been given a home. And so the shutters are drawn to defend against a perceived threat of judgment from without, and yet this energy resides only in the mind of the beholder, in the mind of the one who has conjured this judgment from the depths of imagination and has given it a reality. This is, in essence, the mechanism that keeps the dream of separation alive. It is that movement to deny, that movement to hide for fear of what might come, of what might be reflected back. And indeed, it is reflected back. Indeed, it is. And indeed, for parts in mind, the shutters are closed because that judgment has been fulfilled in the world. Because it has come as attack, it has come in vehemence, it has come in ferocity. It has come from parents, it has come from siblings, it has come from teachers, it has come from partners and lovers and spouses, it has come from children. It has come from everywhere in creation, has it not? Has it not been perceived in mind that this world is frightfully dangerous and that attack is imminent from every vector, from every corner, from every being potentially? That in truth there is no safety, and therefore defense must be mounted. It is imperative to protect the places within from experiencing more hurt. Is this not how life is lived upon this planet? Is this not the way in which the world is perceived? And do we all who have abided in this world not become experts at defense, at deflection, at hiding, at fighting, at judging, at becoming reciprocal in the fight of who will be right, of who will take the throne of righteousness, so that that one can know that they are the best at defense of those places within where hurt abide. The very structure of the world that is known out there is a profound reflection of that which abides within. It is the deep unconscious judgment of self, of past actions, of patterns of thinking, patterns of behaviors held within these isolated parts within. It is the judgment within that conjures the deep fear that is felt. For judgment necessitates punishment. One begets the other. When judgment is known in mind, it is known that punishment must surely follow. And rightly so, and it is projected equally that those who are judged out there must surely be punished for their actions, for their sin. For what is a sin but that which has been judged? And so the very dynamics of all relationship that is not yet founded in the purity of innocence through perfect allowance is played out through the field of judgment. And judgment will always bring about fear of retribution and punishment. It will also necessarily give rise and birth the energy of guilt. For that which is judged as wrong will always elicit a sense of guilt in the system. And guilt, when fully immersed in identity, becomes shame. And shame becomes something that must be hidden, defended against, and protected at all costs. For the essence of shame is to say that I am wrong. Fundamentally, in essence, and as a foundational identification, I am wrong. And this debilitates the system to such a degree that it cannot function in the world. And that functionality, when it is missing, denies survival. And survival is of some importance to the mind, to the consciousness that is identified with the body as if that is the truth of who it is. So you see, the story of separation is birthed through judgment and plays out through identification. When judgment arises and it is believed that the identity of self is with that one that is judged, then the notion of separation can become as if it is a reality in time and space, even if it is not. And I assure you, my friends, that it is not. But the perception appears real. This is why in the journey of atonement, this is why in the journey to lay aside the dream of separation, the energy of forgiveness, of allowance, and the release of identification are paramount. Forgiveness is that which dissolves through the energy of judgment in mind. Forgiveness is a wave of love from the Creator's heart that moves always through all creation and can be adopted, can be harnessed, cultivated into an expression of light that is as simple as breath, that can undo all that has been done. And identification is that process of focused awareness. It is that process of perpetually zooming in to the forms in mind, becoming so obsessed, so focused that the self literally falls into these creations. It is as if you are a doll maker who has made a sophisticated doll that is itself inert and lifeless. It is supremely sophisticated with immense capabilities. And yet, instead of remaining as the creator of this, instead of remaining as the one who has conjured this in the mind, you drop into it, you focus into it so acutely, so profoundly, with such devotion and determination, and you become lost in the object of your own creation, this very body, and the bodies that have come before. And the identification becomes so supreme that it is forgotten who you are. It is forgotten that you are the maker of this, that you are not this thing itself. And a part of this journey, a part of this is to instill the nature of judgment within the body mind itself, so that it is supposed in some way that the visceral nature of the body itself is in some way an abhorrence to God. That you have in some way defied creation in order to create this experience. That it is inherently wrong simply to be here. That it is inherently wrong to enjoy a body. And how many beliefs have surfaced through the eons of time that have reflected this idea of the gross nature of physicality as being something lesser than the truth of God. Of course, it is not. This is simply the messaging. This is simply the belief structures of judgment that have been placed within this framework of creation because the intention has been to experience self as other than God, as separate from the whole. And yet, when the body is free of all judgment, and therefore when the body is free from all guilt, and therefore when the body is free from any requirement or expectation of punishment, when the body is free to simply be the pure innocence of self, moving as light through creation, through all creation, through the cellular matrix of the body, through the quantum structures of this domain. There is bliss and joy and goodness. And the wholeness of self can be known through the form, and the form itself can become known in the wholeness of self. For how could there be separation? There cannot. There can only be the illusion of separation. And that is all that you are here to dissolve. The illusion of separation, the idea of it in a mind, the perception of judgment, a false identification with the doll that you have created from the perfect innocence and power of your own being as Christ. And you have indeed populated the bodies that you have inhabited over time with many aspects of creation from the past. You have hidden away in the depths of these bodies experiences long since identified with and believed to be foundational to the truth of who you are. And yet I say unto you, these things can only ever be illusion, for they are birthed from the illusion of yourself as being separate. And so the phrasing that would be correct would be to say that these are the foundations of your illusion, the foundations of the delusion that you are separate, that you are fragmented, that you are less than whole, that you are outside of the kingdom. Now, all of these things are fundamentally untrue and cannot reflect reality. These are the roots of the illusion that you are here to dissolve. And to dissolve illusion requires reality. And reality requires innocence and the knowingness of who you are. You are not the experiences of the past. These are not the foundations of your being. These are the foundations of your illusion. They hold no power over you unless you choose to empower them with your identity. These are the foundations of your illusion. They are not the foundations of who you are. This does not mean that they are to be ignored. This does not mean they are to be brushed aside. It simply means that they hold no power over you. They cannot define you. But this is what is imagined, is it not? It is imagined that the foundation of who you are is embedded in a body that is filled with the experiences of the past. Is it not imagined that you are a summation of the past experiences that have occurred in this life or other lives or have been handed down through the genetics of an ancestral line? Is it not true to say it is supposed that this is who you are? That you are the sum of these parts? And I say unto you, no, that is not who you are. That is not the foundation of your being. That is not the reality of you. It may be the work of this lifetime to come to realize that the truth of you has never had anything to do with that which has unfolded in time and space through forms of bodies. And it may take some very careful and delicate unpicking of the nature of these illusions in order to recognize the truth of yourself. For all the while you are embedded in identity with that which you are not, you will suffer the experiences of time and space and this dimensionality. And yet, when it comes to pass that you can simply allow yourself to be in reality and to see these experiences of the past as nothing more than dreams that have occurred, and that you are here to bring love to all that has come about in the world, but that you are not that. Then you will know peace, true peace, and you will come to abide in the silence of yourself. You have woven your consciousness into the tapestry of the dream, into the imagining that you are the characters that you have conjured into being. And we are here to invite you to pull on the thread of your consciousness from this tapestry. For all that has been woven can be undone simply by the pulling of the thread of your awareness from the identification with it. And then to smile lovingly upon that which has been made, in darkness or light, in fear or guilt or shame or joy. Whatever the frequency of energy is, it is irrelevant in the knowledge that it is not you. This is freedom from the world. This is the return to innocence and peace. For the self in itself is peaceful. You are peaceful. You may have many parts in mind that you identify with that are far from peaceful. And you may spend time every day imagining that you are those ones. And that is the habit that has been created. And you have chosen to become very lost within it. And yet the voices within are not who you are. The body of feeling and emotion that floods the system of mind and form is not who you are. The invitation of this message is clear. It is to put down the things of the world. That is to say, it is to release identity with the forms of your creation, in mind, in emotion, and in body. To return to the simple innocence of the silence that is the gateway to your own immortality, that is the gateway to your own infinite self. And to recognize that those voices that would grasp from within and attempt to pull you back into the world are not you. These are your creations, created to do just that, created to draw you back into the world, to snare you, to guilt trip you up from the pathway into the light, to remind you of everything that you are not, in the hope that you will forget again who you are. This is the essence of the dream created by yourself, conjured by yourself in communion with your brothers and sisters, in co-creation and collaboration with all beings in this plane of existence. The world is the ultimate distraction, and the world is within you. There is a reflection of the inner world without, but the world is very much within you. It is contained in these structures of belief, these voices within. The thinking mind is the world. The fragmented aspects that hold on to myopic perspectives that pull you ever more into the dream. And whence in the dream there is very little you can do to heal, for you cannot bring light from your imagined darkness. So the question that we bring unto you in this moment is simply a question of who you would be. Would you commit to spending time in the silence of yourself, even as the mind shouts and screams and pulls upon you to attend to it? Would you choose to be that one in this moment who lovingly acknowledges the voices of the mind and yet chooses to remember that this is not who you are? That you will come to the mind in good time and order, but you will come to the mind from a place of silence and stillness. You will come unto the world from the truth of who you are, for you are done with being lost in the world of your own dreams and forgetting the true nature of yourself. For that which you are in reality is the power of Christ itself. For that which you are even now in this moment, whence the parts of the mind have been put aside, when the space has been decided upon within the heart, when the truth has been committed to within the self, you are the power of Christ now. And that power has the power to bring all love into the world of your own mind. That power of who you are is the force of healing within yourself, from which all wholeness can and will be restored unto all worlds. And when that commitment to be as you are is the primary commitment in mind, you will come to see and know within yourself that there has never been anything in the world that could hold the power to harm you. And when the power of love that you are is brought to bear with the waves of forgiveness offered by the Father's love to wash through every judgment in every level of mind, to wash through wholly the history of every soul, to wash through the depths of every mind, to touch within the cells and the genetics of the body, to cleanse and purify again the entire system of the one mind of all judgments, so that there is simply known the purity of the innocence of love and Christ as it is now. This is the power you have. This is the power inherent within you to transform the world, to become the savior of the world, is simply to bless your own creations in the pure and the perfect love of the Christ that you are now. And that there is no process and there is no practice that is required beyond releasing identity with the things of the world and focusing on the power of forgiveness to dissolve all judgment. And through the relinquishment of identification of that which you never were, the power of Christ is restored in the heart, and the world will dissolve in the blessing of the light of yourself and your truth. And what will remain is your kingdom. What will remain is your queendom. That will be open in innocent transparency through the heart to join with all kingdoms and all queendoms. And the earth itself will be awash with the light of Christ, given birth through this process in every heart, and the heart of the earth will be restored instantly, and the waters will run clear. and the oceans will teem with life, and the forests will be restored in the blink of an eye. And it will be known in the heart of every being who abides on this planet that the dream has been dreamt and it is complete and the journey is fulfilled. And now it is time to start again, to begin again in the glory and the grace of the light of the truth of who you are. And this is not some future event to be in the glory and the grace of who you are, for that is accessible now. There is nowhere you need to go. It is simply the relinquishment of that which you are not. And yes, there are complications to the journey in the relationship between the consciousness of Christ yourself as you are and these dreamscapes, these worlds within, these histories. For it is assumed still in belief that this is the foundation of who you are, and as such, there is a process of disentanglement to disintegrate the consciousness you are from the dream. And so that process unfolds. And yet you do have access now to the reality of who you are, to yourself that abides with us evermore in eternity. For even now, each of you abides with us in the place in which we abide, which is in the purest frequencies of love throughout all dimensional realities. For we are the particle and the wave. We are the wave of all creation. And yet, when we focus awareness in light, we become that point, as you become that point that dances through the cosmic genetic that is very much an integral aspect, part of the whole, reintegrating itself into the one stream of light that the Father has issued forth from his immaculate and infinite beingness, so that we might explore the beauty of creation for ourselves, even as we are an ever unfolding aspect of himself. And so this is the beauty of creation, and this is the beauty of yourself, for that creation is not separate from you, nor you from it, and that creation is wholly dependent on the light of your being to fulfill its own wholeness, for its wholeness is dependent upon all beings, as all beings are dependent on the wholeness of itself. This is the symbiosis of life. We are the whole, as the whole is us, and you are not exempt. And there is naught that has occurred in the history of soul that could exclude you from the truth of your beingness. For all events, my friend, have been perfectly neutral. And it is only the presence of the judgment you have created within your own mind that locks you, that ties you, that anchors you, that grounds you in illusion. Forgiveness and the disintegration of a false identity. These are the keys to becoming the reality of yourself. Hmm. So we invite you now in this moment to abide in the breath, to withdraw your consciousness from the worlds within, to restore a focus of self in the depth of your heart, to listen intently to the silence of that space within, even as the mind may chatter away, and to choose to know that this is your reality and that you are not here to become the world, but to heal it of all illusion. We will take some time to be in this space, and then we will step back for now and give way and we will return to entertain some question. And indeed, beloved friends, now we begin again. Hmm. Hmm. Let us be together in the light of truth and in the heart of Christ. And let us know that for ourselves. for you are as I am, now and forever. And so, beloved Sister Sarita, would you kindly read the first question for me?
Jeshua, thank you for your guidance. How can I heal my physical ailments?
Hmm. Ah, yes, indeed, beloved friend. This is a question that I am sure will resonate for many experience physical ailments and are indeed troubled by these things. Hmm. And indeed, many believe that these physical ailments mean something about who they are. Hmm. There is often a perception that the physical ailment is a representation of something that is wrong in self, that there is an error in creation that is founded in the self, that is expressed through the body, and thus there is requirement for some form of correction. Hmm. I say unto you, my beloved friend, listen well to the words that have been spoken this evening about identification and the foundations of who you imagine yourself to be. For the foundations are illusion, and that which is birthed from illusion is illusory. Now, this is not to say that your experience of the body is illusory. Whilst you are identified with those parts in mind that experience a body as a reality, the experience feels very, very real. And yet I speak unto you as one that I know has the capacity to recognize and receive the truth. The body requires no healing. The body requires no healing because the reality of yourself is not dependent on the healing of the body to know itself. Let me say that again. The body requires no healing, for the reality of yourself is not dependent on the healing of a body in order to know itself. Now, hear me well. When the reality of yourself is in knowing, of the truth, there is no requirement for the body to heal. It may heal as a result of the self coming into the reality and the knowingness that it is not the body. But you will come to see in time that the body is merely a tool, and it does indeed reflect patterns of belief in mind. But these patterns of belief in mind are not who you are, nor do they define you in any way, nor could they. Now, these patterns of belief in mind, hmm, will in time be transformed by the power of love that you are when it is wholly remembered. And that healing will allow the restoration of the light of the truth of you to pour through the form of the body. And in that is a resurrection. Within that is the fulfillment of the light of Christ on earth. But I say, this is of importance, my friend. Your awakening as Christ is not dependent on your healing of the body. Your healing of the body is dependent on your awakening as Christ. It is easy for the mind that is identified and suffused with the body to imagine that the body must heal in order to give rise to the queendom. And this is inverted. It is the world perspective that is the opposite of the reality of the kingdom. Your journey is to restore the truth of yourself and then to bless your creation. Not to restore a sanctity in your creations in the hope that it will restore Christ himself. Hmm. Now, there is much there to ponder. There is much there to absorb. I would say, know that you are not alone, my brother. Hmm. Now take the next question.
Jeshua, the thought of eternity is perhaps my greatest fear. The idea of living forever feels more like a punishment and akin to eternal damnation. Could you help me see the truth of this?
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, indeed, my friend. Yes, to suffer, hmm? To spend an eternity in the sufferance of parts in mind that are grounded in judgment and guilt and fear. Indeed, that prospect of an eternity does not sound appealing, and nor should it. for that is not the reality of life. Mm. That is not the reality of that which has been given unto you of the Father. This is the effect of profound identification with an illusion of separation. This question stems from a profound identification with an aspect of mind that suffers greatly, and a projection from that suffering into the idea of eternity is one almost unbearable to fathom. And indeed, if eternity was to be that which you describe, then God would not be good at all. And yet it is untrue. Once again, we look upon a mind that has suffused itself with the illusions of judgment and guilt and fear and shame and doubt. These are the qualities of the dream. They are the foundations of illusion. They are not reality. It is not life. What you describe is not life. It is the resistance to life. It is the denial of life. It is the attempt to get away from life. For judgment rules that mind in the deepest places, yet still. And so there is call for much forgiveness and softness and compassion and understanding and holding, as well as the movement in mind to say a clear and loving no to the temptations of guilt, a clear and loving no to the continual spiraling identification with the falseness of shame. A clear and loving no to the identification with that which you are not. To remember this dream space, this separation is only a temporary entity. It is a blip in the mind of God. It is a fraction of a second in eternity that you live within as if it was the all and the whole. You abide in the tiniest fragment of life, and you imagine it is what life is, and I tell you it is not. Life is glorious and beautiful, and it is yours when you are ready to release yourself from the confines of your own judgment. Then you will come to see, and you will come to see, for it is inevitable for all beings, for it has already been done. You will come to see the majesty of your own place in creation, and you will rejoice and sing and play and love and create joyfully forevermore. And you will look back upon this dream and wonder how you could have ever conjured such a question from such a limited place. in such a small fragment of creation and chosen to call it a reality. And you will smile gently to yourself in the knowing that that was the perfect expression for you in that moment. And you will join with me and your brothers and sisters, and you will love, and you will create from that love, and you will know that life is good. Again, listen well to the words that have been spoken this evening, for they carry much value for you in terms of the relationship that has been developed between your consciousness and the worlds that spiral within and begin to separate out the wheat from the chaff, the reality of yourself as love from the falseness of the judgment and the guilt that sits as the foundation of illusion. This is the work of the world that you find yourselves within. It is the journey of atonement, of returning out from that which is fragmented into the wholeness of self, that you might embrace the fragments and make of them a whole, a world of love. Sarita?
Thank you, Joshua. On January the 2nd, I'm moving to a new place where I don't yet have housing or a job, and I'll be apart from my wife for the first time. It's a place I tried to move to 30 years ago but didn't succeed, so the uncertainty feels intense. Recently, I've noticed deep judgments about myself from that time surfacing, asking to be forgiven. Could you share a prayer, method, or practice to help forgive such judgments?
Hmm. Yes, indeed. And thank you for this. A prayer or a method. Hmm. That which dissolves judgment is forgiveness. And forgiveness is not just a concept in mind. It is not just a thought. It is a wave of reality. It is a profound felt experience of light. Forgiveness is love in motion and action through mind. It starts in the simple intention to bring forgiveness to the judgments within. It begins with the breath. It begins as you have already started. by acknowledging the presence of judgment. It begins with the noticing of the mind's proclivity to judge, the judgment that arises. It moves through the ascension out of these multiple layers of judgment that occur in mind, this field upon field of separation that is placed in mind, that one can come to abide in a space in which there is the spaciousness to embrace the whole field of judgment that is given in mind, as it is conjured in mind. To forgive is to embrace in the stillness of pure self. It is the relinquishment of identification and a movement of love to surround these places in mind in perfect stillness. And through that, to dissolve and to reclaim, to integrate. Forgiveness is a quality of energy that takes time to cultivate. I will ask Israel to send you a process that he has written with me in the past, that is a part of a course that is delivered on forgiveness, that you can practice with, for it brings about a quality of truth to the one that speaks the words with the relevant intention and breath. And I will join with you in every moment of forgiveness that you choose to welcome me into your practice and your process and your heart. For true forgiveness is a delight to experience, for it is the restoration of light where the illusion of darkness has been spread.